Hello, and welcome to Insightful Conversations with your host, Three Principles practitioner, Adey-Jones. Join her each week as she welcomes some of the world's leading Three Principles teachers and practitioners who share how this understanding has dramatically improved the quality of their lives and the lives of those they work with.
I'm so thrilled to have Lee and Andrea Vallely with me today. Lee and Andrea have been on the journey of self-discovery for over 20 years. 4 years ago, they heard something they could not ignore, the work of Sydney Banks. They now share these principles on radio, TV, and with personal and business clients, and now with teens. They have created Shift Happens weekend retreats for adults, teens, and executives. Andy and Lee live in Delray Beach, Florida. Thank you both so much for joining me today. So you were obviously both on this path of self-improvement and self-development, and for many years before coming across the principles. So what was it about the principles that was different from all the other stuff that you did?
Oh, wow. Well, I'll go first because I'm quicker. only in this aspect, because I don't have nearly the amount of training that Lee has. He'd been on the path much longer than me. But for me, it started, I read the book, Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss. And it wasn't so much the part about the reincarnation that got me. It was the part about love. I heard that message so clearly that our essence is love, our being is love. And that's the whole gig. And that just rang so true to me. So that's when I started doing some work with Robert Holden, who was just amazing. The same thing happened to me when I heard about the principles. It was that same feeling of, yes, this is it. So that was the awakening for me. It was just that thing that rang true for me, that I couldn't ignore. It was the same as reading that book and knowing that our essence is love. So for me, that was when it was just like, oh, this is true. And I couldn't ignore it, which is, I know, what most people say, you can't ignore the truth.
Exactly. That's wonderful. And what about you, Lee?
Well, I came in kicking and screaming, and almost literally. Well, I started the career, if you like, in NLP, which I think a lot of people did in actual fact. And also, I first heard of it, I'm not sure who. It was either Michael Neal or Jamie Smart, one or the other, because both of those were mentors of mine, and of course they started introducing it. And I also listened to and watched the Three Principles movie and all of these things. And I can't say to you that it was like, oh, that's just NLP. It wasn't like that. It was like, oh, wow, this is really good. It's like NLP.
Yeah.
And so I sort of put it on the back burner, not because I didn't believe in it, but I misunderstood it, I realize now. And it wasn't until we're trying to work it out. It's like 4 years ago. We're not sure of the exact moment, but of course, I read all of Michael Neal's books and Jamie Smart. So, of course, those, again, was just integrating it into my NLP training, not realizing, wait a minute, it's not, what we're thinking, it's that we're thinking. And suddenly, again, as Andy said, suddenly something clicked big time. And I mean, Michael Neal's got a lovely flair with words. And so that made a heck of a lot more sense to us. And the key is there that it was sense. It was still in that intellectual side. It took me so long to let go of that. And I'm talking about, I think it was probably this year. Not quite, but it feels that way. That's why I say it was kicking and screaming, because now I understand how life-changing in the fact of how simple this is. And isn't it, I mean, in today's climate, what we're going through right now, it is so obvious that so many of us are deep in our thinking about what's going on, what can happen, and what we can rely on. And the fact is, there's not a heck of a lot we can rely on.
Exactly.
What's it say? It's the end of the world as we know it.
Yeah.
It's like, as we know it, things are changing. And the one thing that I've really seen for me, a much deeper level is that we have one constant.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that is that we live in the feeling of our thinking in the moment. Yeah. And that's something that, like gravity, we can actually rely on. And so that was completely life-changing for me. It just sold us both, but it took a long time, but it sold us on the fact of, wait a minute, this is the truth. This is the truth.
Yeah, and you say it so beautifully, and I totally agree. And I think sometimes when you've been in so many other modalities, it's hard to sort of, I think sometimes when you come into this totally fresh and haven't done nothing before, it's a little bit more like lights go off, whereas in the beginning, and especially if you're sort of quite intelligent and you're used to figuring things out, it's easy to go down that trap of comparing it to other things you did, and it's the detaching from that can sometimes take a little longer. But you explain it so beautifully and so simply, and I love your segueing right into where I want to go, which is what we're all going through right now, which is this coronavirus. So talk about that. I mean, what are you seeing for yourself and in the clients you're working with?
Well, it's so interesting because just this weekend we did a workshop. We do these workshops called Shift Happens.
Mm-hmm. After Robert's book.
Exactly. I actually emailed him when we came up with the name, and I thought, well, let me just check with him first and make sure it's okay. And of course, he's so lovely and generous. It wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
But so we had a really nice group of people this weekend. And of course, this was a big, huge topic. And, going big picture on everything, I feel as though we're all being forced to stop and look at what is true, at the only constant that we have in our life, which is us, which is our essence. It really is an opportunity for the world to slow down and stop looking outside of themselves for the security that's already within us. We're so used to looking outside of ourselves for that feel good, those conditions that we put on ourselves and on our life. And now we can't do that. There's no stability for anybody. And I think it's an incredible opportunity for us all to really, really trust this wisdom, this gift of wisdom that we have, and the gift of that we're already okay no matter what's going on outside of us. And I feel like it's such a beautiful time. It's a shame that certain people are being forced, kicking and screaming, and how beautiful to be able to see that the essence of who we are is enough, that the outside circumstances really doesn't matter, that we make meaning of it. And when we can see that we already have what we need within us, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, that's so true. And yet, having said that, it's really understandable that human beings are panicking right now. Not even so much for them sort of contracting the virus, but the economic effects that people are going through. So it's more important than ever to know that even if you do lose your job, or you do lose, money, not only in the stock market, but even in not being able to, pay your mortgages, things like that, that yes, in the world of form, things will change. They're already changing. Look at it. But it's what we make that mean about our experience of life. That we will still be okay no matter what happens, that we have that resilience.
Here's the thing, the hard part, and it doesn't sound very, it's not like, oh, well, that sounds great. I feel so much better for you saying that. But here's the thing is, no matter what happens, we are much better off at tapping into our wisdom and sharing what comes out and going with what comes out than panicking about the situation. So it sounds terrible, but even worst case scenario, things don't work out, you still are going to do the best that you can coming from that inner wisdom than if you were to try and panic and try and do the right thing in a panic mode.
Exactly.
So no matter what, you're going to be better off.
Right. It's a perfect opportunity for us to really see our resilience and know that no matter what, we're going to recover. We will recover. It might not look the way we thought it was going to look, a month ago when we were thinking about our future, but we're going to recover.
Yeah.
And, to me, I will tell you, Del, before in my life, I would have been flipping out over this. I would have been so worried about 5,000 things and my parents and my daughter and my husband and my cat. I just would have had all these things on my plate about our future and just so much made up worry. And it's so beautiful for me to get to experience this okayness. It's really amazing. And I get to see that in myself. And I said to Lee, I wouldn't want to be in this situation with anybody else because he is Mr. Calm and Cool no matter what, but not calm and cool no matter what, because, I know how to be calm and cool, but just, it's okay. It's okay. And we'll figure it out as we go, just like everybody else will.
Exactly. And what I also love about this understanding is that is just the, we are human beings, or rather we're spiritual beings having a human experience, but it's okay to have these human reactions. It's okay. Right. There's no judgment if you are losing it a little bit, because that is the nature of what we go through as human beings. Yeah. We have high moods and low moods, and we're going to just, sometimes we're going to wake up and think, whoa. And then other days it's like, it's fine. It's okay. I'm going to make it. So, but just to be gentle with yourself during this process, because it is such a change. But the other thing is, I also think there's such a beauty in it. It's like, it's the great leveler. I mean, if we ever, I look at this sort of isolationism and we're different and we're special and we're this, and it's like, no, excuse me, the virus doesn't care about any of that. Doesn't care if you've got money or don't have money. Doesn't care about the color of your skin or your ethnicity. It's just really, we're just human beings at this moment, or spiritual beings, as they say. So in a way, it's sort of, I just feel more connected than ever to everybody else. Because that was the other thing I was thinking is, I live in Malibu and we have the fires, and you live in Florida and you have hurricanes. But it's like, this is the first time I think where everybody on the planet is like, wow, we're in this together. There's there's no walls or boundaries or border crossings and things like that. It's like, no, we're in this together.
Yeah. So. And isn't it amazing that no one on this planet in their lifetime has ever experienced what we're going through.
Yeah.
That you can't really say any time where all industries and so on were starting to close down. But what was also amazing, and like you say, it's like through adversity, a lot of times great things happen. I mean, they said that in China, where it first happened, that when they closed everything down, that it was the first time for years or decades or something that they actually had clear sky.
Yeah.
That they had had blue skies. Right. And like you say, this connection and the leveling is absolutely incredible. Yeah. We've just never experienced such a thing. It's such a great opportunity to understand the human experience.
It's like a rebirth. I feel like we're all getting, it's a rebirth for all of us.
Exactly.
Because the world is not going to be the same after this. It's just not. So we all get to kind of see what that looks like together.
Yeah, absolutely. And the planet is breathing lighter too. I mean, like you said, the sky is blue in China, and the air pollution and everything sort of just, I think it's a real quieting down and the going inside and being more in the being rather than the doing. I mean, it's fascinating.
Like the world has a fever.
Yeah, exactly. I love that.
The world has a bit of a fever too. So it's just like telling everybody, calm it down, calm it down. Yeah. And through adversity, isn't it amazing that I can't say guaranteed, but like it seems that creativity comes through that adversity. It's a case of having to. So many people are sort of like changing the way they work, changing the way they think about life, all these different things that are coming through this very adversity that we're all, in a sense, forced to come up with,
And I mean, you're from the UK too, so I know there was a phrase when I was growing up. I'm much older than you, but it was always like, when things got a little rough in the sort of 80s maybe, it was like, we need another war. I mean, that's what my mom used to say, because because that's when the country really came together. And there was just this unity, and it's interesting that this is, like I said before, that, you know, having gone through fires in my community, I see how my community really comes together. But there's something so beautiful about seeing the world come together.
It's incredible.
Unifying the world.
Yeah, it really is
so amazing.
So how sorry, what were we going to say?
No, it's just coming back to the principles in that sense, is that the only thing in a way that we have to rely on is that. And I actually heard from Linda Pransky on your show, your podcast, and she put the phrase in a slightly different way, and it really, really helped in the fact of, so we know that we're always living in the feeling of our thinking, and the only one problem in the world is, the only one problem that we ever have is that we react to our experience. And wow, that really, I say, it gave me an insight in the fact of, I heard that if we were not afraid of our experience, that alone would change the world. And that felt really good. And then when I heard the word react, I don't know why, again, semantics, for some reason that hit home so much even deeper in the fact of, yes, of course, it's not that we don't have experience, it's that we react to that experience. And it's like this, it's not that, you know, this isn't necessarily a bad or okay, not in so many words bad, but it's an experience that everybody's having. It's the way that we react to that experience.
Exactly.
And,
and as you say, I mean, I know, I love Linda. She's got she says something so simply, but it's like you go, what? And you
we heard that so deeply.
It really is. But I always say, it's like the problem is not a problem. The problem is our resistance and our, you know, there's resistance to what is and expectation that it should be any different. It's those two things, expectation and resistance, that cause the suffering, not the thinking or the event. It's the wishing it was something different than it was. And this is also the perfect example of, you know, the situation is the situation, but everybody is reacting to it differently. Every single person has their own interpretation. Like I was saying, I see so much beauty in it. I'm almost, it's like, but I see the hardship too. And my heart goes out to people that are suffering in the world of form. But there is so much beauty to see too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So how about you? I know you do these group gatherings and things. How are you doing things differently now?
Well, we've always done twice a month. We do an online webinar. So we'll probably end up doing them every week now. You know, we have one tomorrow night, and we always open it up to the community. They're free. Luckily, we've been seeing most of our clients virtually for quite some time. So that's been really cool. That doesn't have to change, which is great. And what we're doing is we're just reaching out to our clients, businesses that we have nice relationships with, and just offering to do something online for them for free. Just if they want to get their staff together and just do an hour, you know, just on mindset and just sort of helping them put things in perspective. So that's what we're doing at the moment, is we're really reaching out to our friends, our clients, just people in the community that we know, and seeing how we can help virtually.
Yeah.
That's where we are.
And I know you're doing a lot of work with teens now. Is that, how are they experiencing this compared to, say, some other people you work with?
Well,
they're over the moon.
Yeah,
they're not going to school. I mean,
what's so funny, I was actually talking to somebody today, and it's so funny because the kids are, you know, they don't care. Here's what's so beautiful. There are teachers, because they just take the world lightly.
Yeah.
You know, they take the world lightly. They take advantage of, I'm home, I'm going to go to the beach. You know, we'll see how much longer we're allowed to go to the beach. But, you know, they take it lightly. So I see that, you know, kids know how to live. It's really cool. It's the adults, and it makes sense because we have a lot of responsibilities and the kids don't have as many responsibilities, but even that's made up, right? Even that's a judgment call. But the kids seem to be doing well. And we do have a teen weekend coming up in April. You know, we'll see. We'll possibly do it virtually. We we had already had that on our website that we would offer it virtually. So we'll see what happens. We're just kind of playing it by ear. And right now we're very focused on just putting ourselves out there. Who can we help in the community as far as just creating an easier mindset? That's kind of where we are at the moment.
And it's sign of the times, isn't it? I mean, you think about modern technology like this. I mean, exactly. I'm still getting into it. I'm like, whoa, this is great, And at this point where we may have this social sort of distance, and it makes it so much easier in this fact that we have this modern technology, that we can communicate with each other so much. I find it fascinating.
Oh, I know. I was like, everybody's going, the stock market's going down. I'm like, Zoom's going up.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's an amazing tool that we can use. So for people that, I mean, for us, we know the principles. We I don't even have, every living, breathing moment of my life is seen through the lens of the principles. It's always there. It's always with me. But for people that haven't a clue what the principles are, how do you reach them? How do you help them in what they feel is a crisis right now? What is the simplest way that you can reach them?
Well, it's funny. Somebody who's in crisis right now, I wouldn't start to teach them the principles, because they would want to have nothing to do with that. But what I would ask them to notice is their resilience. When have you been through something that looked very, very difficult to you, and you came through it okay? I mean, that's where I would start, is just reminding them of their resilience, because we all have stories of resilience in our life. And also the other thing that's come to mind, at least for me, is that when we're in a panicked and worried state, and this is just common sense, our adrenaline goes up and our immune system doesn't work so well. Our cortisol levels go up, and then, like I said, our immune system doesn't work so well, and then we're putting ourselves at risk. Yeah. And what we want to do now is stay healthy. So that's the other thing that's kind of big that we're talking about, is really just keeping yourself calm for health reasons. And that's going to give you clarity of mind anyway.
The only downside to that is that's the worst thing you can say is, listen, if you panic, your health's going to suffer. And they'll be like,
That's true.
So
we'll go back to resilience.
It's more a case of just allowing people to understand that when they get into their calmness, and it's very simple, you could take a deep breath.
Yeah.
As soon as you take a deep breath, they always say that's the transition from sympathetic, so your fight or flight mode, into your parasympathetic, which is your more relaxed state. So just by taking a single breath can allow you that little time to allow wisdom to come through. So allow fresh thinking to come through. And that alone can completely transform how you're feeling, how you're going to act in a situation, regardless of the situation. Because as we know, again, teaching the three principles, that it is not about the situation. It's about our thinking about that situation. And what really helped me is so magnificent in the transformation. NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, I used to show people how they could transform their thoughts. So if they're thinking really bad, I showed them how they can think really good. And now I realize, well, actually, when you just take that breath and when you just realize that it's thinking, you don't have to, it's not the thinking that you're doing this, it's thinking. It's without any thought into what that thinking is.
Yeah.
The thought itself starts to dissolve back into wherever it came from. Yeah. As a consequence, that allows us to freely start thinking fresh thought. And isn't it amazing that even our habits and our beliefs and so on is simply thoughts that we repeatedly think, that perhaps we haven't given them an opportunity to just dissolve because we've given them so much attention.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
As soon as we let go of that, I mean, I'm so passionate about that because I'm like, wow.
Right. All these years you're trying to change them and you're like, I'm trying to change something that's just thought. It's thought. I don't need to change it. I just need to see that I'm thinking. Oh my God.
I mean, I heard of Dickens spending 4 hours in meditation, and I didn't quite go that far, but probably did 4 hours in terms of rituals, in terms of different things to try to create something. Whereas now I don't need to try to create anything, because how could I be anywhere near as good as what wisdom would be able to come through me to create?
The other thing I was just thinking about as far as talking to people, it's like just reminding them to be present, just to be here, just to be in this moment. It's all that there is anyway. Exactly. We just think that we've got control over the future and that the past means something and all that stuff. It's just being here in this moment. That's the only thing that's true, and it's our greatest gift.
I know. I had a thought the other day. I had a moment a couple of days ago, because I have interest in restaurants, and we're closing all the restaurants, and so I was a little bit like, woo, and I could see that I was like futurizing. I was starting to think what the future's going to look like, and then I just had this moment of, dropping back into the present moment. It's the only place you can find any peace of mind, because normally when you're in that panic, it's usually because you're thinking of something down the road. And then it just sort of like out of nowhere, because I was like, okay, now get to the present moment. And then this little voice said, yeah, you don't even know if you're going to be alive in a few weeks anyway, so why worry about it? And it was but it made me burst out laughing, because I have no fear of getting the virus, but it was like sort of, that's how stupid it is to be all the way there worrying about something that you haven't even a clue what could happen, where it's going. Like you're saying, it's all made up. It's a future we've made up and is causing us by, thinking those thoughts, this distress that 99% of the time is not going to happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's pretty amazing. But yes, again, those thoughts, those habitual thoughts that just keep coming through, and it's just a habit. That's all it is. It's a habit. And you don't
I remember there was a great speaker, and I can't remember his name, so that was good. But he was disabled, and he was in a car crash, and he hit a tree, and he was from the neck down. I think he had use of one arm, and that was it. And he could speak, and that was it. And I always remember this, that he said, for a year or so, he was depressed and he wanted to kill himself, get out of this world. And then he realized that he made a list. In fact, he said, before the accident, I could do 10,000, 560 things, something like that. He said, and then I realized that after the accident, I could only do 9,000 something of those things. And he said, I could live my entire life looking at the 1,000, whatever it was, things that I couldn't do. Or I could really focus on those 9,000 something things that I could do. And that always sat so well with me. That really, it's like in this moment, okay, so we can't go to the restaurant, or our restaurants are closing down or something. So that's out of my hands. What can I do?
Yeah.
And through that, what can I do, can create that fresh thing and that creativeness. Maybe you can have an online restaurant. But anyway, something like
exactly.
that.
But again, it'll all sort itself out. I know it will. And that's the beauty of this. Even if the world of form changes, we're still going to be okay. I mean, it might not look like we thought it should look or wanted it to look, but we're so much more adaptable than we ever think. I mean, we've all gone through challenging times and come out great on the other end. And I love that. I love that you point to the resilience in people and reminding them that they've had challenges before and they've come through. So I think it's a great...
And it's beautiful because we're all doing this together. There's nobody who's immune to this. We're all in this together. So we'll be okay, Exactly. I think we'll even be better than okay. I think for a lot of people, there's going to be a lot of eye-opening and getting to spend more time in reflection rather than always running ahead of ourselves, which as a society we're so used to doing.
Absolutely. And I think, as you say too, just having that sort of restriction on the doing and spending more time with our families and our loved ones, and really reconnecting with what's important, what's the only thing that's important, which is that love that we all share and that we're all made of. And so yeah, I think it is a blessing too, very much so, and a rebirth, as you said. So anyway, we're at our time, but I just wanted to thank you so much for both coming on the show. It was really lovely to talk to you.
Pleasure.
Thank you. We feel the same way.
Yeah,
This is such a
absolutely.
treat.
Very honored. We're now the 3P community.
Yes, we are very honored.
Part of it.
Oh, lovely. Well, I hope to see you in person at some point when we get traveling again.
Yes, we look forward to that. Thank you so much, Del. This was so lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to the show. If you're interested in learning more about my coaching and mentoring packages, please reach out to me at deladeyjones@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you.